we're back. Welcome to Light the Fuse. Charles, how you doing?
Wow, Drew, I love it.
Yeah.
I just your intros, they always blow me away.
Thank you, Charles. You know, I try to bring a little heat each time.
Yeah, it's great.
Much like our guest this week, who's been spending much of his life talking about heat.
Yes.
In a way. And you saw that he's coming back for the novel Heat 2 that's coming out this summer.
Right. Michael Mann co-wrote a new novel that's sort of a prequel and a sequel to Heat.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, excited to check that out. And so Blake Howard has this show, One Heat Minute, which has branched off into plenty of other shows he's covered. I've been listening to his Zodiac episodes, which have been really great. It's a 24-part exploration of the movie Zodiac, which is, to me, I think it's still the best movie of this century, and I just am obsessed with it. So I love, he has so many great guests come on his show, including Bilga comes on the show quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
He was a past guest of ours who we are, of course, in love with. We love Bilga. And many other people have come on the show, and they all talk about these different movies. And One Heat Minute broke down Michael Mann's Heat minute by minute, and he's had Michael Mann on the show multiple times. And so we talk a little bit about his show today, but of course we get a lot into more Mission Impossible stuff. And I think that's about. I think we should just get right into it, right? I mean, you got.
Right, well, I mean, hold on, Charles. Let's not get right into it, because you know I gotta give my shout outs here. That this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and his podcast, My Favorite Album, where he talks to a different musician, songwriter, artist, filmmaker, you and me. We've been on multiple times about the albums they love and how it's influenced them and their work. This episode is also brought to you by John B., who's been a longtime supporter of the show, and we just really appreciate him. Elvis Ripley as well. This episode is brought to you by, and Christina, who we love, who has been a Patreon member for so long, and we've gotten to know her and love her, and she always is there with the late-breaking set reports from European gossip magazines and everything, so she always provides us with a lot of great context for our discussions. And of course, you can be a part of that discussion if you sign up for our insanely reasonably priced Patreon, which is patreon.com/lightthefuse. But we'll get into that after the show, right? But you know, I just want to tee that up.
Yeah,
right
just
now.
get that in there. That's good.
Yeah. But we'll be back after Blake Howard Part 2 to discuss.
Talk to us about the climax of Rogue Nation, because that was another thing that Drew and I talked about. We started this podcast before Fallout came out, and one of the things we talked about was the sort of pyramid structure of the first 5 movies, and I guess with the exception of MI2, really there's a midpoint set piece or a second act set piece in each of the movies that is so massive and impressive that it kind of dwarfs the climax. And in Rogue Nation, they kind of leaned into it a little bit more and really went with an intimate climax. The first time I saw it, I did feel that same kind of underwhelming feeling. But now going back to it, now I appreciate it more. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on what that finale is like for you.
I like, there's this movie called Heat, which I'm a fan of.
You've lost us.
I love the idea that in these colossal movies, sometimes there can be great intimacy in like the final climax. And I love that in Skyfall, and I love it in Heat, obviously, is the prototype for me. That great, this Walter Chaw, who I spoke to in the wrap up of our show, I think it's episode 163. We talked about the Jungian mirrors, you're just seeing these two sides of a coin playing off. And so I loved that in Rogue Nation, because I didn't know how they were going to live up to the fact that Ethan destroyed the USB drive, like the flash drive. I'm like, what the hell's going on? When he's just reading the laptop, it's a bit funny. But then when he memorizes it and you're like, oh, he's this now. He's the chip. He's the data. So I liked it because of the echo. I just like the bookends of the thing of like, I'm going to pay you back in this most. Not only am I going to capture you, not only am I not going to kill you. I was so satisfied, but oh God, he's alive. Like that was for me, is like, he's alive. That's a good thing. But no, I really liked it because it gave everything this intimacy. I love taking things from this massive, huge scale and being able to dwarf it and keep the tension and keep the momentum. And I wanted them to face off, but Sean Harris doesn't feel like the same satisfaction you get with like Cavill against Cruz. Like Cavill's like this big mountain, and you want Cruz, who's this little like firecracker, to just like, you want him to go after him, and it's this like David versus Goliath energy. Whereas Harris's most formidable mind and is very malevolent. And I kind of was like, it's not going to live up to me if they have a fist fight. So I loved that it was a trick. I at the end of it, I was like, did I really want to see Sean Harris have a fist fight with him? No, because I don't think that it would work. Wouldn't have elevated it for me. But the fact that he kind of got him in that same way, I really liked it. That's part of the reason why I really liked it. I was like, and then I was immediately like, I really want to watch it again to see if I like now knowing that opening is essentially a prologue and the epilogue is this conclusion, and how they bookend the whole movie, and they're kind of the inverse of one another, and Ethan finally showing that he's got the formidable mind as well as the body to stop him. I really liked it the first time because again, I'm maybe indoctrinated by Heat, but the centerpiece of Heat is a gunfight that is obviously the bank heist, but those two at the airport just haunting around these shadows and the shadows of one another, and it's a shadow play of these two forces coming together, and the figurative noise of the planes coming in, this roars are what are kind of the deafening thing, and your laser focus is on these two guys. I loved that it's this last little bit. And at the time, I'm like, why isn't Ethan just going after this guy and like disarming him and fighting him? But then as soon as you get him in the box, it's like, this is it. This is good. And then him having to look at all those guys, smile at him, especially being Rames' Luther, just smile right in his face while he's trying to shoot Ethan in the box. I was like, I love this. This is great. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I prefer the car park from Ghost Protocol. But you're right. I mean, that's an example of like, they are also two kind of like, average sized people. Hendrix is not some physical threat. So they had to invent this Rube Goldberg car, contraption thing to kind of escalate the physicality of that confrontation.
Yes.
Which, maybe to your way of thinking might be a little artificial, might be a little unnecessary.
I think they had to solve Rube Goldberg is solving a problem of, we can't just have him face him because he'll kill him. Right. And so I like that in that moment. We can't just do that because it's not going to be true to this experience. And I think that's I really like Ghost Protocol. A lot of people, like, I think I've spoken to a few people and I'm like, I love Rogue Nation. And they're like, well, how? Like, Ghost Protocol's better or Fallout's better? And I'm like, don't get me wrong. Ghost Protocol completely rips. But I like this moment. It just seems to make more sense.
Right.
They tried to sell Hendrix. Do you notice there's a scene in the sedan or whatever with Tom Wilkinson, when he sits with the secretary and Jeremy Renner, and you can tell they added a little ADR line from Renner when he's talking about Hendrix and he's giving his little like rundown of who Hendrix is. There's a little ADR line where they're like, he's Swedish Special Forces, to try to like get the idea that he can fight too.
Yeah, really threatening. Yoo-hoo, you're Swedish Special Forces.
Yeah, and look, the poor thing about Hendrix is that out of both guys who've played Mikhail Blomkvist, like, he's not the most physically intimidating of those two guys. Like, one of them is Daniel Craig. Like, right. If the other guy that played Mikhail Blomkvist was Hendrix in that moment, I would believe it. I would believe that ADR line from Renner to say it. But in this one, I was like, yeah, like, you need something, because at that point, well, it's the fourth movie, right? We know how tough Ethan is. It's like he's not just. No regular guy is gonna stand up to him.
Yeah, we do always talk about how disappointed we are because we obviously love the John Wick franchise. Did a little mini series on that, and he is so funny and colorful and kind of explosive in that movie, and he's so modulated in this, and it clearly is a choice that someone made. I mean, he's a very Brad Bird villain in his sort of philosophical quandaries and things, but we would have liked a little bit more of that.
I love him in Wick.
He needed to put some stank on it. Let's just say that, but
the holding court and the education he's passing about John Wick is just it's one of the great scenes. It's like the whole him spilling the lore of Baba Yaga is like,
yeah.
Sublime. I think that when Charles and I saw it, we said, where the fuck was this kind of like energy on Ghost Protocol? Because it's so dynamic. But
Yeah, they need to make him larger than life.
yes,
It's so much.
I think there wasn't room for that in Ghost Protocol. Maybe I don't know. I don't think there ever was because it didn't seem like there wasn't any of the footage or in the deleted scenes of him. I think they cut him down, but I think they needed the villain to just kind of be straight evil. You know, the tone of the movie is a little sillier than the other ones, and I think they needed to make sure that they kept the villain straight to really sell the danger, or else the movie would be at risk of tipping over into too silly territory. That's maybe my theory.
in the deleted scenes, he might be even more boring. So you're right. Yeah.
They left more boring on the
Yeah.
cutting room floor.
Well, Charles, do you have any other questions?
Well, you mentioned when you were talking about the climax of Rogue Nation, you mentioned Ethan's photographic memory, which we love. We love our special skills of Ethan's, from lip reading to photographic memory to
Sketching.
holding his breath underwater for 6 minutes to the
sketching.
drawing. Do you have a favorite Ethan skill from the series?
I think the sketching was my favorite because the sketch is so good that he is able to pull facial recognition off of it. That's my favorite because it's like
That's true.
That's like crazy.
Yes.
That's in Rogue Nation, right?
Yeah, in Rogue Nation.
But it's also so good on his hand in Ghost Protocol that Jeremy Renner can identify.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner goes, "Oh, I know that doodle." Yeah.
They throw in a quick line. I think he says like, "Well, crew drawing, but."
I know that doodle.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of it in 3 too, when he's drawing the buildings on the window, and Ethan's. Yeah, they got to bring back the drawing skills.
Bring back the drawing.
It's so good.
He's like Ridley Scott. He's like Ridley Scotty.
Well, Charles, you're forgetting one of his best tricks that we saw in the footage at CinemaCon, the sleight of hand. The close-up magic is coming back in 7.
Oh yes.
It looks like the close-up magic that was in the first Mission Impossible. When he's teasing Jean Reno with the disc. It looks like in one of the shots, it looked like he was doing something with a lighter. It looked like he was doing some close-up magic. We are fucking pumped.
No, I totally get you. Like, I love the Mission one, almost like the reappraisal of how good it is, because like as much as it was dismissed preliminarily with like critics and stuff like that, or like, oh, De Palma's whatever, but like so many movies then just spent a decade copying it relentlessly. In one of our shows we're doing right now in Miami Nice about Michael Mann's Miami Vice, it's like this movie was shellacked for. They didn't like Colin Farrell. They didn't like his hair. They didn't like his mustache. They didn't like Jamie Foxx's performance. Whatever, all the things that they say they don't like about the movie. But then every international espionage undercover movie for the next decade relentlessly copies Miami Vice. Like it just they're just taking elements, literally the lines of dialogue. And I think that that's what can't be ever taken away from that first mission, is it like built a prototype, and not only is Mission itself like adhering to the prototype that it created, but it's like relentlessly now copied in every action movie. Needed that heist centerpiece where every action movie needed all the elements of that to be considered an action movie on a global scale. And it's like I think that that's what's so amazing about it in retrospect.
And they never match it
either.
That's the amazing.
It's really hard to match.
Yeah,
because it's also slightly horny. It
is horny.
It needs more horniness.
It seemed like they trimmed down a little bit of the horniness, but it's still there.
Yeah, it needs more horniness.
There's a shot in the trailer of like a sex scene that it seemed like they cut out of it, but you definitely feel. Drew and I were talking about this recently offline. It's just like about how Puritan, like how just like everything is so
chaste.
Yes, it's kind of weird. It's like, you see Verhoeven's new movie and you're like, oh my God, this is so nice to see. It's like we need more Verhoeven in this world. And that first mission has that. And I think actually the second one has it a little bit as well with Tandy Newton.
Yes.
But the later ones are not horny.
That one I think two is more sensual. Whereas we were looking for some weird De Palma sex stuff,
Yeah, it's like his father figure's wife. It's like father figure Megantor's wife. You're kind of like, oh, this is getting a little dicey here.
It's so on brand for De Palma, though. It's like, it's like just you do you, man. That's why Verhoeven, like in 2021, I had 2 amazing experiences. One, I was sitting in my office right now where I'm sitting. I was turning around. There's a TV screen just up on the wall behind me. And I was watching Showgirls for another podcast I was doing. And my wife walked in and I'm like, please sit down and just watch this with me. And after about 15 minutes, she was like, what am I watching? And then very similarly, I got to watch Benedetta and she again said, "What am I watching?" And I'm like, this is him, man. This is Verhoeven. This is what he does. This is what he does. He makes like unrelentingly horny movies. Like he can't help himself.
It's true.
Hot Jesus and Benedetta is just like sublime.
I love that those are your two highlights of 2021.
Making my wife watch
Making my
movies she
wife
hates.
uncomfortable, yeah, and ensuring that we don't have sexual congress ever again.
Oh, bless. Yeah, no, that's called Blake's brand, Drew. It's no, like I don't know about you guys, any of your partners or partners out there. If you're a real cinephile and you kind of watch so many different kinds of movies, my wife is well over my tastes, very much. So, you know, she's learned that I'm going to watch things that she's going to not like at all. And so sometimes she rarely watches movies with me when we're at home because she's like, I'm not watching this. So it's probably going to be bad. But I do enjoy making her watch those. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Well, I was going to ask you, because my wife has never seen Miami Vice, but we watched Heat last year and To Live and Die in LA. And so I feel like that would be in the wheelhouse, but I wanted to ask you, and I was going to text this to Bilga too, so I will let you know if he has a different answer. But first time viewers, would you say the director's cut or the theatrical for Miami Vice?
Well, has to be the theatrical.
Okay.
I did it wrong.
I think I might have sent Charles to the director's cut because I enjoy it a lot, but okay, go ahead.
But I went back and watched the theatrical actually just like a month or two ago for the first time. And that was my second time seeing the movie, but first time seeing that version.
I can't get enough of the opening. The cold open in the club is, I remember recently on Twitter, someone did that, you know, that great thing that movies have been injected into that moment in sports where the bar goes absolutely crazy for something that happens in a movie. Someone did the Miami Vice version of that. They just like had the cold open with the Universal logo and then banged, you know, the Jay-Z Numb Encore hard cut. And I just can't get enough of that. But I want to tease something. So thank you. You've led me into this. And I'll also make this available to you guys on the DL. We have made a Miami Nice cut of Miami Vice. That begins as the theatrical cut begins and then moves into the director's cut for most of the remainder of the movie, except we don't have the In the Air Tonight playing under the action sequence at the end. We rather cut back to the theatrical cut for the original music.
Interesting.
That close out the movie. So that is, if I was talking about like the ultimate cut of Miami Vice, that's what I would recommend to people.
The Miami Nice cut.
The Miami Nice cut.
Have you told Michael Mann that you did this, and what did he say?
No, I haven't told Michael Mann that I've done this. No, he hasn't been told yet because we haven't done this. But that's if I talked about what my favorite part of it is, that in situ media res, like straight into the action. I can't get enough of that in the theatrical cut of Miami Vice. But I agree with you, Drew. There's so much other little extra stuff. There's this amazing Tubbs and Trudy conversation that happens in a diner about their relationship. There's the salutations from my friends in the South moment that I just can't get enough of, which is her receiving the flowers from Archangel de Jesus Montoya, which is ripped straight from a story that Michael Mann learned from one of his technical advisors that I love. And the director's cut just has these additional flourishes that are so wonderful, but I can't get enough of the opening, and I don't particularly like the song change in the final action sequence.
Are you going to have him on the show for Miami Nice?
We'll see. The show has evolved in such a strange way. The wonderful, my partner in crime, every 11/17 on a Saturday night, Katie Walsh is, and I just started this out as a salve for originally being stuck inside. And what's happened is it's kind of bloomed and grown into this like Miami Vice confessional of people coming across talking about all the things they love. So eventually, I would love to talk to Mr. Mann again, but I never want to try to. I've had such amazing goodwill. He spoke to me on the final episode of the Heat podcast and then came back to talk Mohicans with me. And so it feels like I'm already.
You're pushing it. You're
spoiled.
pushing it.
I'm extremely spoiled, is what I would say. I've spoken to some incredible people, and the show is evolving so great that if he ever wanted to come back and talk, or if he was ever available, I would absolutely talk to him in a heartbeat. But it's not at this moment is not the way, because we haven't decided when the show's going to end. It's just kind of, as you guys, it's turning into this like confessional where we're getting some great people. We've just had Elliot Koretz, who was a sound designer on Miami Vice, and Collateral, and on the original pilot for Miami Vice, and and Japhet Gordon, who was Colin Farrell's assistant on set, and he had some fun stories to tell. Some of them we had to cut out, and so yeah, it's turning into a kind of a wonderful show, and we're really proud of it. But I'm not pushing my luck with Mr. Man at this minute.
That original show is so good. I started watching it. I need to restart this thread on Twitter where I was watching it in chronological order during the pandemic, and man, that show,
the Miami Vice show,
it's so good.
I've only got them on DVD, and I want to go. There's a great Blu-ray box set of the entire series that I've got to get, and I think I'm going to follow your thread again, Drew, because I did see it when it was popping up, and I've got to go back and do the whole series because there's been so many great threads about like, look at all these people who got their start in Miami Vice, and you see like
the music is so good, and I think that Blu-ray box set is maybe the first one to retain all of the music since, because I'm sure it was just a nightmare to license it, but his alligator Elvis we love. I mean, it's amazing.
It's got it all.
It's got it all. Well, I think we've reached the time, Charles. Is this it? We ready for the big questions?
Yeah, I guess this is the time. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on. I'm nervous.
All right, I know you are. Okay, we're here. You want to do hair first? First of all, we've got to say you're one of our most handsome guests, which is another way that you're dwarfing us in that department. But
stop that.
Maybe you could talk about your hair rankings.
Hair rankings.
You knew this was coming.
I'm currently sporting a kind of proto Mission 1 haircut right now. I just cut my hair from like a Mission, which is kind of like I cut my hair from like a Mission 5 to a Mission 1. Hair rankings.
I want to get to the point where I can talk to my hairdresser just in terms of Mission Impossible haircuts. Like, right now I'm like a kind of at a Ghost Protocol, and I really want to get this to a Fallout. Can you do that for me? Thanks.
I like the Rogue Nation hair because it's such a great in-betweener. Like it wears messy, but it also wears in a kind of classy, I'm wearing a tuxedo, and there's only certain guys that can pull it off. A fellow podcasting doyen, Clay Keller, one of the greatest crimes I ever saw him do was cut his hair from a Mission 2 to a Mission 1 at the end of the pandemic. And I was like, Clay, you're one of the rare men in the world that can pull off a Colin Farrell from Miami Vice 2006 haircut, and you just destroyed it. You broke all of our hearts. So if I had to say, it would probably be it'd be Rogue Nation, it'd be Mission 2, then Mission 1, and then I'm not the biggest fan of the other cluster. So
you prefer Mission 2, just to get into the weeds about this, you prefer Mission 2 over Mission 4. Both long hairstyles. 4 is a little bit shapelier.
I like the 2 because it's got the flow. Then he can just, if you're
it's
talking
just
about
fucking
pure
raw sex. Yeah.
Raw dog. It's beautiful. And especially when he's hanging off of like those pillars in Monument Valley and it's just whipping in the breeze. You're like, and he flicks the glasses and they explode. It's as good as it gets.
Or when he's spinning in his convertible.
Yeah, the convertible.
In slow motion.
Maybe the most erotic scene.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Talk about horny. There we go. That's mine too right there.
Bring back. Get hornier. Come on. But yeah, no, I think, I like the more raw.
Okay.
The more raw.
What does he look like in the footage from CinemaCon, Charles?
Yeah.
Well, that's what because we saw.
It's more like Fallout hair,
tracking
right?
This. It's kind of more like one. It's pretty short because he was coming off of Top Gun Maverick, so his hair was short.
Nice.
So I'm excited for him to go back real short again.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
I mean, it's the danger of short hair is that if you've ever put on any pandemic kilos or pounds, pandemic pounds, as you guys would say.
We don't know what you're talking about.
If you ever have that experience, which I've certainly had, the shorter hair is dangerous. But once you, but Tom Cruise is like fit as a fiddle. Like he's in the, he's in peak physical condition. So, he can totally wear it short. I like the short because also I think the short is more conducive to the masks. The mask play, and disguises and stuff like that. And but that's one thing I do like in Rogue Nation when he takes off the Atlee mask in that beautiful push in close up to Alec Baldwin going, Hunt. His hair's messy, and I like the messiness of like he takes off the mask and his beautiful coif is a bit messy.
Yeah.
Yes, which also I think is great. A different kind of mask, but the kind of like sock mask in the first one when the goon from Die Hard pulls off his mask and his hair is messed up and he does that great kind of shake. Charles, that's another great nonverbal Tom Cruise tick that I love from the franchise. That
when he doesn't he like kind of blow the hair off of his, like there's like leftover fibers from the mask in his eye or just hair messed up. He just kind of goes.
It's great.
Yeah, love that moment.
All right, here it is, Blake. Give us your rankings.
1, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2.
Whoa! So hold on. So Rogue Nation was the minute you chose.
Yeah,
but you're putting it second now.
You can't. You guys have made me like. Honestly, it's a hair split. It's one of those hairs that Tom Cruise just spat off his lip in one of his ticks that Drew just did an impression of on the show. It's like, it's honestly just the day. I think my favorite is Rogue Nation, but I think the best is one. Is that a strange way to say it? It's like the best is one. The best is one because of its immense influence. And it's always, and even the way that Fallout readdresses Max and all those things, which I love so much, I have to say one is probably consistently the best overall movie.
Well, you just did a commentary for Parallax View as well.
I did.
I would say that this is the most sort of classically conspiratorial / Hitchcockian of the bunch.
I mean, but also that's one thing I love in Rogue Nation. It feels like they've copied the senatorial committee right out of Parallax, and they've put Alec Baldwin and Jeremy Renner in front of it. It just looks so visually
that visual reference. It's really amazing. Love that.
Yeah. So, but I would just say my favorite is Rogue. I think the best is Mission 1. And then obviously Fallout. Like for me, the level of quality that, the level of quality that you're talking about when you're talking about those very tippity top movies are so like the difference is infinitesimal. Like it's just that is like a 3-way crash for me. And then there's a tiny dip for me when it comes to Ghost Protocol, and then another dip for 3 and 2 is just off the scale. It's no point putting it on the graph because in my mind it doesn't belong there. But I think 1 is probably the best, but Rogue is my favorite.
It's interesting because we encounter a lot of people who love 3.
Really?
And not a lot of people put it as Charles and myself put it that low, kind of towards the bottom. But there are things we obviously love about it. But
me too.
Yeah, so we like that. We have a kindred spirit, and you kind of putting it in its place where it should be.
Yeah. where it should be. I'm taking your I'm validated by your expertise to say that that's where it belongs, because I have the argument with a lot of people about Ghost Protocol. Mine's the inverse. It's like Ghost Protocol is the one that is leaps and bounds ahead for, I guess, my friend group that I talk to quite a bit, and I'm just like, yeah, it's great. Like it's good. Like the Burj Khalifa scene and just so much about it, but I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, turn it off. Like, what are we doing, guys? Like,
well, we do love Giacchino's score for 4.
Oh,
very playful, very light on its feet. I mean, like the rest of the movie, but
yes,
yeah.
That I was so lucky. I got to see not Rogue Nation, rather Ghost Protocol at IMAX, and that whole the playfulness and the fun. And then Ethan stepping out on the Burj Khalifa on the IMAX screen in Sydney. I mean, doesn't it?
Mind blowing.
There's so few people that have experienced that movie in that way. It's really shocking. I mean, not a lot of people saw it in IMAX, and
we need it to come back in true IMAX. We need it.
And Sydney, unfortunately, is part of like everything gets swallowed because they're like, oh, this could be real estate that we could build. So the IMAX theater that used to be in Darling Harbour in like basically the center of Sydney is knocked down, and there's going to be another version of it coming back sometime soon, I guess, or at least it was pre-pandemic.
Wasn't it the biggest theater in the world or something at one point?
Yeah, biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, I think it was in the world for a short time and then biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. But it was so to be like, you were so close to the screen in this huge sort of cavernous, really high arching array of seats. And I just remember sitting right, front and center watching that. And I was with my friends and my wife, and we were watching it and just like, holy shit. Like it was just like almost your stomach moves because you've got this weird sensation of like, I'm the one peering out of this building. But yeah, I still have extreme fond memories of that. And not getting a chance to do it with other missions is like criminal.
Yeah. I don't know if have they shot anything in IMAX for this one? Do we know? Have they said anything?
I don't know if anything's been released. I would assume that they are, because they did for Top Gun Maverick, and they're using the same cameras as Top Gun Maverick.
That's true.
So I would guess that it's going to be digital IMAX again, which is what it was for Fallout as well. It was they shot on film, but they did digital IMAX for the Halo jump and the helicopters.
I was just going to say, I thought the plane at the beginning of Rogue Nation they shot on a different film. stock originally as well, like the kinds of cameras. I can't remember off the top of my head.
They might have, but they didn't shoot any IMAX for Rogue Nation.
No, they didn't.
Before we let you go, I think this has been confirmed that this is the first all digital Mission Impossible. Do you feel any? You obviously are doing this work with Michael Mann on these pioneering kind of digital productions. How do you feel about it today? And also, Zodiac was a hugely influential digital movie.
Yeah, look, I'm a bit sort of like stock agnostic. I think that the thing that I detest about digital filmmaking largely is laziness, and nothing could be more opposite as far as filmmaking craft than shooting on digital for like a mission movie, because they kind of exemplify what it means to do in-camera, like sensational in-camera stuff. And I think the digital photography in a mission movie maybe is potentially even better, because you then have the ability of more malleability with the size of the camera. That's the only thing that I can say, is like the size of a rig to put on the side of a plane if it's film. And all the housing and all the protection you have to do and the stability and all that sort of stuff is a harder slog. But I'm a bit more agnostic about whether it needs to necessarily be on film. For me, like I said, I just hate when it's like it's shot on digital so you can shoot someone in a studio for a month talking to a dot, and then the other actor is stitched into those scenes and it all feels like washed out and gross. But I truly don't think that that's going to be. And, I know they did a stack of digital photography on Bond, and they, in the same way, are like showing every cent that they spend on screen in these huge set pieces. So I'm not as worried for a mission movie to be on digital, in my mind.
Boy, I would hate to be Red Notice right now. That's just, I'm telling you.
Well, I had to review it for a great publication, like a 23-year-old publication now, Dark Horizons, with the great editor Garth Franklin.
I grew up on Dark Horizons.
Yeah.
That was my site.
Didn't you submit some reviews, Charles?
Yeah, I used to submit reviews to Dark Horizons in college when I would go to test screenings, like Vanilla Sky and some other movies that I saw at test screenings.
So we are kindred spirits. We've written on the same publication, Charles. But so Garth still is my favorite movie newsman, and I'm lucky to be. He calls the Dark Horizons in-house lad. Basically, doing review assignments now and then for him. And I did Red Notice, and sometimes I love him. And sometimes I hate him for what he assigns. And one of those ones, I was like, man, I love you. You're like a brother to me, but I hated that movie so much. Please, for the love of God.
Yeah. Those movies, though, they make you appreciate everything that something like Mission Impossible does in terms of craftsmanship.
It makes you appreciate Six Underground. Like, let's be real.
Well, I don't know about... Yeah, I guess so. I mean, at least there was a lot of exploding heads and things in Six Underground.
True. In Six Underground, in slow motion, a lady gets hit in the face with a pigeon. That movie has to do everything in its power to not be 5 stars from that moment. It happens in the first 30 seconds.
We're all about ambulance over here. We're ready for ambulance.
I'm ready too. Yeah. Ready.
Well, I think we've taken up way too much of your time. I think it's probably like next Tuesday in Australia at this point. So, do you want to? What do you have to pitch? When we were emailing initially, I was like, what do you want to pitch? And you said, I always have something to pitch. So please, I know you're going on a little bit of a break, but I'm sure there are things in the hopper that you can talk about.
Look, hopefully around the time you guys are listening to this, we've just concluded Zodiac Chronicle, 24 episodes on David Fincher's masterpiece, Zodiac. Really thrilled and excited to bring everything that's got to offer. Coming up, also more Great Miami Nice with my co-host, Katie Walsh. But I've started a little podcast with Chris Candy and Rob Belushi, two great actors and sons of some pretty famous individuals. It's called Too Much Movie. Currently, we're doing a series on the 90s. We're doing every month. And our next movie coming up is on sneakers. So we did LA Confidential with Jordan Harper, who wrote the LA Confidential pilot. Great author and a great friend of mine. And now we're doing sneakers. And I'll just tease it for this show exclusively. We have on the great Werner Brandes himself, Stephen Tobolowsky, is coming out to chat to us. So I'm super excited about that. And then, of course, later on, I'm assembling another 12-episode series on called Podcaster and Commander on Peter Weir's Master and Commander, starring Russell Crowe.
More like Masterpiece and Commander.
Masterpiece and Commander is
Very
exactly
good.
right. That one is pretty thrilling because there is a new interview with Peter Weir, one with me, talking to the great man that's going to be a part of that series. So,
And that's extraordinarily rare. An interview with Peter
Listen,
Weir.
there's another person on this podcast that's spoken to Peter Weir too. So let's just put that out
Drew.
there.
Okay. Did you talk to Peter Weir? When was that?
oh my God. Did you talk to him for the way back?
The way back.
That's over 10 years ago.
How long ago was
Right.
that, Drew?
That was, when was that, Charles?
It's over 10 years ago, right? Didn't it come out 2010, I want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I was commuting back and forth from New York, and I remember I was waiting for a train and pacing around the Hilton at the Grand Central Terminal talking to Peter Weir.
2010. 2010.
Yeah.
I saw that movie opening day at the Landmark, and I think I was one of 3 people in the theater.
It's a tough hang, that one. But yeah, I mean, I was very struck by his empathy. He had a sort of compassion that equaled his technical sort of expertise. I don't know if that was the experience that you had with him, but I remember bringing up Salem's Lot because, of course, I had to.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I just found myself in a really dark place, like, and it was just sort of like, wow, this is like he feels things very deeply, which I think you can get
You
that
see it.
sensation. Yeah, for sure.
In his
But,
movies, for sure.
yeah.
He's a true he's like a true artist. It's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing to say. And it's kind of rad to talk to who I genuinely think is like Australia's greatest living filmmaker. Even just privately, and I don't know if it's on the recording of me just gushing at him about how great he is. But it's just amazing. His resume is. It's the thing that intimidates. It's the gold standard. He's almost too good for his time. Which, when he backed in, Picnic at Hanging Rock and Gallipoli, Last Wave, and then moved to the States and sort of had Witness and Dead Poets and Mosquito Coast and then Truman Show. It's just like it's such a diverse and just powerful resume. It's pretty amazing. It was a true honor.
Talk about a movie that's been reappraised recently as Mosquito Coast, as people have been like, oh wait, that was great.
Yeah.
And as they should have all along, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's a really special filmmaker. So yeah, no, that was insane.
Well, Blake, thank you so much for accepting this mission. Charles will be bothering you to be a guest on his Your Master and Commander show. I hope you bring me on whenever you talk about one of the Disney or Pixar movies from the 90s in your 90s show. I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded there. So, and feel free to come back anytime you want on this show because we loved having you. I speak for Charles. You think this was good or what? How do you feel about Blake right now?
I feel okay. Yeah. I think we could bring him back. We could do another minute of another movie. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Okay, how about this? If the trailer comes out and it's a minute long, I want a soft promise right now you'll come back and analyze it with us.
100%. I can even do a couple. I can even do a couple of minutes. We can just chunk it together on the trailer. I'd be more than happy to. I really love the Fallout trailer. The Fallout trailer with who? What band did that great track?
Oh, I think Imagine Dragons. Is that
Imagine
who this
Dragons.
was?
The
Yeah.
Imagine Dragons trailer for Fallout.
Yeah. Which Lauren Balfe like altered the track a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
If you don't think we've bothered him
Our
about
very
that,
first interview was Lauren Balfe
yeah.
years ago now. And,
Yeah.
and Lauren was, I think, describing to us that didn't he make a version
Yeah.
of that track
Oh,
to
yeah.
make it sound more like the Mission theme?
yeah.
Talk about chasing the dragon. I want the Imagine Dragons that sounds like the Mission theme from that trailer, and the only place to find it is the damn trailer. So you have to keep watching the trailer. No, I promise I would love to come back. I'm so honestly, you guys are doing the Lord's work on this show. I think that anyone, speaking as a person who's occasionally had those fairy tale moments, hearing you guys talk to De Palma was just like it warmed my heart so much because I was like, oh my God, I know how much this means to them. So it was freaking awesome. So, but I would just say no, it's thank you. It's been a real treat to talk to you guys about this.
We're back. What a guy.
What a guy.
Just thoughtful energetic, passionate.
Yes, very very articulate.
Very articulate. I can't imagine putting together one of his episodes. It just seems maddening to me.
I know. He really puts us to shame. We seem so lazy compared to him.
Right. It's a different format. It's a different format.
His shows are very much like it's a full-on like audio documentary. I mean, he's pulling quotes from different people. Like it's not like one episode covers one person like us.
Right.
He's got like 20 different people talking in a single episode, and it's all very thematically oriented a lot of the time. Although obviously with Heat it was minute by minute, but right now I'm listening to the Zodiac episodes, and that's what those are more.
Yeah.
He's sort of going through Zodiac in chunks, I guess is the way it's going, instead of minutes.
Yeah.
But have you listened to that one? It's great.
I haven't listened yet, but I'm dying to. You know, I love Zodiac, so that'll be fun. We were talking about sort of supplemental things because I was suggesting this book to him because it sounded like a lot of it was sort of about the 60s and what led to Zodiac and the actual crimes and Graysmith and all that. Because he's had Graysmith on a few times, I think, too.
Yes, and James Vanderbilt, the writer as well, is on quite a bit as well. Yeah, and he pulls actual clips from the real life events and compares them to what's in the movie. And yeah, it's impressive. I don't know how he puts that much work into it.
Yeah.
Just chill out, Blake.
Yeah. We can barely make it through an episode a week, so you're really putting us to shame. But no, we had a great time, and I told him, you know, he's welcome back anytime. So
yeah. Yeah, so I got to give some shout-outs. Thank you to Sonia Miranda and to Derek Klingel. Thank you guys so much for making this episode possible. And also, I want to give a shout-out to our composer, Kevin Blumenfeld, who hopefully is not in any legal hot water, but you never know. Yeah. And also to Luke Burson, our editor and mixer. And I guess I should just steer everyone to our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. We got bonus content every week. There are also higher levels. You can be a member of our monthly Skype chat that we do, which is somehow insanely still on Skype. I don't know why we haven't switched to Zoom, but it's just a tradition now at this point. And because we started it before the pandemic, right? Before Zoom sort of took over the world.
Yeah. I feel like I was thinking about it today, and I was like, we should just make this a Zoom. I think Zoom is so much easier for everybody. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
But now we have so many people on the chat that it would like take a whole lot to be like, all right, everybody, we're switching to Zoom. Although I'm sure everyone has Zoom, so it would probably be super easy. Anyway, you should sign up. It's a lot of fun. We've got these great chats that we do every month. We're actually about to do one today with everybody to talk about the Mission Impossible 7 and Mission Impossible 8 being delayed news, which is a bummer. But we are very excited for Top Gun Maverick this year and many other things. So, a lot to look forward to. We should also, let's talk about it. Let's say it. Who do we have on the show next week? We don't have to tease it anymore. Let's just straight up say it.
Okay. We have Jim Bissell, the production designer of Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation and E.T. and Rocketeer and Arachnophobia.
And Jumanji.
I mean, this guy is a legend. I mean, come on. And he is so funny. Yeah. He's so sharp. He has no bullshit airs about himself or the process. It is just... Yeah. I loved it.
He's worked with Elswood a lot. Obviously, he worked with Elswood on both Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, and they kind of have a similar, very blunt vibe, it seems like.
Yes. Yeah, he talks about how he didn't actually get to design a skyscraper until he made Skyscraper, which Elswood was on. But right. I mean, we do get one bombshell that really set me back that I think about once a day, which I won't say here, but it involves one of the most famous shots from Ghost Protocol. And he just tells us Santa Claus is not real in that scene, if you will. But
so you got to come back for that next week and the week after. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to keep up with us on the daily, check us out at Light the Fuse Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and hopefully we'll be expanding to more platforms soon. But yeah, that's a great way to keep up with the latest news and the latest updates from us about the show. If you want to look at TeePublic, just search Light the Fuse. All our merch will come up. Buy a sticker, a hat, whatever. And anything else, Charles?
Yeah, just check out the website, lightthefusepodcast.com.
Yeah.
Go to the episode guide. You can see all our show notes for all our past episodes, including this one. And that's, I think, about it for us. Yeah, come on back next week.
Okay, great.
Thank Thanks again for listening, everyone. Before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.